What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
Guys, I've got some good news for you, and I got some bad news for you. The good news is UFC 320 delivered, and we got a great show in store.
Oh, yeah.
The bad news is Steven has laryngitis.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, he's going to be out another week, and hopefully you guys will see him next week and not me. But, Nick, yeah, let's just get in. Let's start with the main event. Just your technical breakdown. What you thought.
Okay, so Alex Pereira knocked out Magomed Ankalaev in just over a minute. And in my opinion, that was the most impressive UFC title fight performance I've ever seen. I'm going to break it down, and this breakdown's almost going to last as long as the fight. So Alex Pereira came across the cage with immediate pressure and started with heavy strikes, a 1-2 right to start, and that got Ankalaev moving backwards and circling around the cage. Now, we know these guys are fighting in open stance because one's left-handed, one's right-handed. And for pretty much the entire first fight, the fight took place in an open stance. And when you see fighters fighting in an open stance, usually that means it's the lead foot and lead hand battle. You need to have your lead foot on the outside of their lead foot and your lead hand on top of their lead hand. And sometimes it makes for a less entertaining fight, but that really is the goal when you're fighting in the open stance. And Pereira does a great job at always maintaining the outside and the top position. And we saw that last night. Magomed was trying to figure out how to evade and not go towards the power side. But Pereira's an interesting guy because his most effective shot, his most devastating punch is his lead hook. So you don't want to circle towards his lead side, which would make a lot of sense for in most cases. Ankalaev found himself moving towards the power side, the right side of Pereira. When I saw that happen, I was wondering how he was going to evade, but he probably just decided it was more safe for him to go towards the power side than it was towards the hook side. So then we see them come into the center of the cage again, and that's when we see Pereira start to use some calf kicks, inside leg calf kicks on the lead leg of Ankalaev. And after two of them, Ankalaev switched stances. So clearly they were doing some damage early on, and Pereira was landing them on a spot that's not as conditioned as the rest of the leg. So as soon as that happened, Ankalaev switched stances, and he was now fighting Pereira as an orthodox fighter. And when that happens, there is a massive disadvantage for the guy who isn't the world-class kickboxer, the world champion kickboxer. And Pereira, I think he set every bit of this fight up, from the pressure in the beginning to forcing the calf kicks to get to the stance switch, to have Ankalaev move right into the power shot. It was probably the most incredible performance I've ever seen, and I don't think one bit of it was an accident. I think every bit of what Chama did was planned out, and that was perfectly executed. We have never seen a Dagestani fighter get beat so easily. I mean, we usually you see them go, even if they do lose, they're going to decision. We've never seen a Dagestani fighter as good as Magomed Ankalaev get finished like that. And the finishing sequence, by the way, we haven't seen 12-6 elbows that devastating since the night John Jones lost the fight for the exact same technique. So change of rules means Chama can throw down those elbows. The 12-6, it was brutal. Ankalaev did a great job in the first one, but man, Alex Pereira proved that he was sick, he was injured, he was not 100%, and when he comes in closer to 100%, he's a whole lot more dangerous.
Yeah. The one part of that, you were just talking to me before we started filming about what you saw Pereira do. I hate to throw it right back at you, but can you go a little bit more in depth on that? What got Magomed to want to shoot in? It was a great, what you were saying was a great a technical breakdown of it that I don't think many people are thinking about.
Let's get a little deeper. So when you see Alex Pereira throw that overhand right, it's not something we see all the time. He usually relies on that lead hook. He does a lot of leg kicking, and he seems to do a ton of damage with that. But he doesn't seem to plant his feet, change his levels almost, and throw like a wrestler's overhand. That's what he threw. And when we were talking about this fight, when we were leading up into the rematch, I said, if Pereira comes out and looks for the same shots that we've seen him have a ton of success with, but didn't have success with against Ankalaev, and he doesn't mix it up, he's going to have a hard time finding his target. Well, nobody really sees Pereira throw that overhand two quite like that. He does it a lot in practice, but usually in the fight, he's a little more cautious and he stays further away. He's a range fighter because he's so long. He doesn't have to get inside and roll under shots and stuff like that. This was high level technique, some really clean boxing. And yeah, anybody will turn into a wrestler when you get hit by a shot like that.
Oh yeah.
Magomed Ankalaev is claimed by a lot of people to be some wrestler. He has 0 submissions, but because he doesn't have a mustache and he's got the beard of a great wrestler like so many do, he gets put into that category. But he is not a wrestler. He's a striker. But last night, after that shot landed from Pereira, he quickly turned into a grappler to see what could happen. But beautiful sprawl from Alex Pereira. He was able to get away, got his hips heavy, got right on top of Ankalaev, flattened him out. And then, I mean, the ending sequence was as devastating as we've seen anybody finish somebody in the UFC.
For sure, yeah. And for all you watching, I'll give you a little bit of what Steven said last night with a very raspy voice. The second Magomed went for that takedown, Steven goes, "Oh, you're a wrestler now."
Yeah, the famous Nate Diaz quote.
Exactly, yeah. So he definitely was looking for a way to not have to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I had a proud casual moment because I was like, that's what I was saying when we did the predictions.
Right.
He's going to come in ferocious, or if he does come in ferocious, Magomed is going to look to take him down.
Yeah, and it's exactly what happened. Yeah. It's so interesting because Pereira has been not a timid fighter, a cautious fighter since he's gotten to the UFC. But it's not that he's scared to engage. He certainly does. He just knows how to counter-strike so well. And when people blitz in or they come in with their own attacks, he knows how to keep himself safe, maybe move backwards a little bit or move off at an angle and then get his own attacks. We don't always see him come so aggressively, especially early in the fight. Usually he likes to get his reads, start to do damage on the legs and maybe get their guard extra high with the fear of the hook. Last night, he just went straight at a guy who is seen as a wrestler. Yeah. He went straight at a pressure fighter and forced him on his back leg. Is that going to be the new formula for how strikers can go attack fights against high-level grapplers, high-level wrestlers? Maybe it is. I think the success that Pereira had last night is enough to get some high-level strikers to at least attempt that if they go against a high-level grappler.
For sure, yeah. And I will say that wasn't my favorite Pereira starting.
No.
Even though he got the finish in the first round, it was the Adesanya one where he just came running across, throwing a jumping kick at Adesanya. That's how every fight should start, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you pretty much broke down everything.
Yeah, that's the technical side of things. But usually after that, they can't have 5 minutes before we're asking what's next. Exactly. Joe Rogan's most important question on the microphone every time is, what's next for you? So I thought Alex Pereira handled the post-fight speech perfectly. This was just a perfect night for Chama. And I believe that the Chama aura is 100% back restored. I believe he was looking for a super fight last night. I believe he wanted to call out John Jones. I think that is absolutely the fight the UFC wants to make on the White House lawn or otherwise. I think that is 100% the fight they want John Jones in next, not Tom Aspinall. But Alex Pereira handled that so well by doing a moment of silence for John Jones, who just lost his brother. And I love a brash call out. I love when somebody can get on the mic and slice somebody up and then call their shot, get that shot and everything. But Pereira clearly handled that like a man, was very respectful, and I believe that will give him a better chance at getting John Jones next than if he would have tried to call him out or do something less tasteful.
Exactly, yeah. And I do have a feeling that Oldberg could still be next, just to get the Pereira hype back.
True.
If you want my opinion on it, I think that's an easy fight for Pereira.
Kind of get him back on like a winning streak.
Exactly, yeah. Get some hype behind his fighting and things like that. Let him actually shoot the bow and arrow into the ring with somebody in it, or into the cage with somebody in it. Last night, I was telling y'all, like, I am not impressed with this bow and arrow one because there's nobody but, who was it, Mark Goddard or Herb Dean in the cage.
Yeah, so. Mark Goddard took the bow and arrow last night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that Oldberg has a shot, but Jiri Procházka came in, and we're going to get into that fight, which he outshined a guy who got a first-round finish just a week ago. You know, Dominic Reyes is a great fighter, but he's not Khalil Rountree. And what Oldberg did to him was very impressive, but it's not as impressive as what Jiri Procházka just did. The problem is, I don't feel like that fight was a number one contenders match because they've both lost to Pereira, and there was a chance last night that Pereira was going to win. Turns out he did. So the only way you can do a rematch, in my opinion, is it would have to be a trilogy with Ankalaev. I don't see, if we're not going to do a trilogy with him, why we would do a trilogy with anybody. Or a rematch, I mean. If you want fresh blood, yes, Oldberg is the guy. But then again, we have to think, he wants Alex Pereira, that is, wants a super fight. He wants something meaningful. And I think the UFC with this White House card coming up, and I don't want them to shelve him all that time, but I think they do see a future with him maybe in the main event or co-main event of that card and potentially against John Jones. So I don't know what they're going to do. I'm with you. I think they want him to stay active because that's what people like. Keep Chama in the headlines. He's always entertaining. He's got the foot issue. It looks like he dislocated the ball of his foot or his toe or something. He's in a boot as of 10 minutes after the fight. So he's going to take a few months off for sure, but I have a feeling they're going to bring Chama back in really hard in 2026. And honestly, if they give him Ulberg, I think he walks through Ulberg, gets another impressive finish, and that's all he needs to set up for the main event for the White House.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's for now skip over the co-main. We're talking about 205 right now. What's going on there?
Right.
Just your technical breakdown of Jiri's performance and the feature bout, which was the best fight on the main card.
Yeah, and I don't mean to toot my own horn, but if you go look at the short, I said Jiri Procházka, TKO finish, some sort of highlight reel thing. It's going to be an absolute war as long as it lasts. Khalil Rountree's a dog. Obviously, both guys needed to go get some medical attention after that. And I said, the only thing I got wrong is Carlos Ulberg would wind up in the cage after the main event, but I don't think he wanted anything to do with Chama after Chama finished what he was doing with Magomed. He might have wound up being the next guy to get this done to him. But no, I think Jiri Procházka looked great. Obviously, Jiri is known for being this unorthodox striker. You never know what to expect when he's standing there. He can jump straight in the air and it has no intention behind it, but it's enough to get you to stay away or flinch. And, maybe it's unconventional, but it certainly works. And he's been a very successful fighter with a long career. So Khalil Rountree was able to deal with some of those oddities that Jiri brings into the cage. He was able to figure out some of them, and strict, clean, straight striking was paying off for him. Jiri was looking for the bigger shots. He was looking for the more devastating wild shot, the wild card. And he was having some success finding it, but up until that third round, Khalil Rountree was finding the better shots, the more effective shots. And even though he was landing them, it didn't seem like they were doing as much damage on Jiri. Jiri's shots somehow were doing a lot of damage because even going into the third round, Khalil's face was kind of beat up. Jiri's looked kind of all right. And then that third round, obviously, Khalil ran out of energy. And Jiri did exactly what Pereira did. And I love this about Jiri. Jiri is a true martial artist, and he's been beat before, but when he gets beat by somebody, he doesn't, get upset about it. He goes and learns what they did. And then he goes and figures it out. So he's clearly watching the sport. He watched what Pereira did to get Khalil Rountree out of there, which was some devastating body shots mixed in with the head attacks. And once he started attacking that body, it was only a matter of time before Khalil folded over. And I mean, the hook that he hit him with, or the punch that he hit him with, I'm drawing a blank as to which hand he threw. It was so clean. And to see Khalil Rountree go down like that was tough. But Jiri Procházka proved that, he's still very much a problem at 205. And it just is unfortunate for him that Alex is the champ, because I don't think anybody's going to be pining to see them have a rematch right now.
A trilogy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy that two of Pereira's fights at 205, or if he does it again, it's for a trilogy. But I will say that the jump knee that Jiri was throwing, he was getting high on those. He was like, if it was close to the side of the cage, he would have probably gone over the cage how high he was getting. But yeah, it was definitely, got to say, Khalil looked very impressive those first two rounds. He won both of the first two rounds. And then, like you said, he just got tired. And
Jiri Procházka is just this storm, and he keeps getting bigger and bigger and stronger as the fight goes on. And what's interesting is, from the fighter's mentality, it seems like Khalil Rountree had hit him with everything he could possibly hit him with, and he didn't go down. And that's probably a real taxing thing on the mind when you're like, okay, I've literally lit this guy up. His face is hardly bleeding, and he's not even like wobbled by any of these shots. So what do I have to do? Do I just have to bite down and hope I make it to the end? That's not so easy to do when you start to run out of gas and somebody as good and powerful as Jiri Procházka starts to attack the body. It's, you know, that part really starts to shut you down.
For sure, and it's almost probably even more mentally taxing when Jiri is like getting angry at Khalil. He was like, come on, like, you're not knocking me out, go ahead. Let one of these knock me out. He's like, I'm trying my hardest, But What would you, here's like a little side idea. Do you think Khalil Magomed would be anything?
I think they would absolutely try to make that. I think it's a winnable fight for Magomed for sure. But everybody seems a little bit different when they get knocked out or they get finished brutally, and they're not used to that. You know, you see a guy who's long in the tooth, like a Jim Miller. He can go lose a fight, and then it doesn't change his outcome for the next fight. But when you're one of these guys who's 20-0, or you haven't really tasted defeat, and you lose, it can change the way you fight. And I'll just say Ankalaev, he had only lost one time before that, but that was a submission with 1 second left on the clock, right? So he had gone through an entire fight. He's never been had somebody walk across the cage and beat him up like that and finish him in a minute and a half. And that could end up changing Magomed's trajectory for the future, or how he approaches fights. And if I was one of the contenders at the top of 205, I would be trying to get a fight with the former champion to see if he's, shook by this at all, or if he's going to come back better. But either way, getting in there with a former champion is rare and always something a contender should look for.
So unless you got anything else, you want to move to the co-main?
No, we got to get into the co-main. Merab Dvalishvili, Cory Sandhagen. I mean, what more can you say? Merab Dvalishvili is the machine, and a lot of people had written off Cory Sandhagen on this fight. Everybody said there's no chance, and I liked that it kind of lit a fire in Cory. He seemed like he was locked in, and look, he was doing all sorts of stuff before the fight and in fight camp and stuff, and to each his own. I don't judge anybody on that kind of stuff, but I was like, this is either going to be the greatest plan in the world, and he's going to come in there like eyes dilated and all ready to go, and he's like in this Matrix universe and just destroys Merab, or he's just going to be another victim of Merab. And I'll say, I thought Cory Sandhagen did better against Merab than anybody else, and particularly that first round, he was so measured. His ability to maintain the range of the fight and keep Merab at bay, and then keep his long strikes going. I mean, I always talk about this when I'm seeing a guy who's just locked in defensively. Their eyes, if you can watch Cory Sandhagen's eyes in that fight, they don't come off Merab for 1 second in that first round. He's just everywhere that Merab is feigning and looking. He's just adjusting for it and accounting for it. And he looked really sharp there. The problem is he wasn't really sitting down on any of those strikes, and I don't blame him. Merab, as soon as you get heavy in your legs, he shoots in and will take you down. But I think if he would have been able to do a little more damage with the strikes he was landing early on Merab, he would have been able to get more reactions out of Merab for later in the fight. You know, get Merab angry, get Merab bloody, and make his takedowns or his entries look a little bit more labored, if you will. But, Merab is just the machine for good reason. There's not a fighter named with a nickname more accurate than Merab. Merab comes out there and doesn't care if he gets punched in the face, and his striking isn't the most accurate. It's not all that clean. He lands, but he doesn't do all that much damage until later in the fight. And after about the second or third round, you started to realize, like, okay, Cory Sandhagen's the cleaner striker, but the more effective striker right now is Merab. I mean, that second round, he almost finished him. I'm really glad that the ref, I think it was Herb Dean, but I'm drawing a blank as to who it was.
It was him or Mark Goddard. It was one of the two,
whoever it was did a good job, because they know how tough Cory is. This is a world title fight, and you got to let him try to work through that. I mean, I thought he was out and then woke back up through one of those strikes. Merab did a great job, but I thought it was the right call to keep the fight going, and obviously for Cory to make it through the next 3 rounds and do pretty well. I mean, he even won on one of the judges' scorecards the 4th round. So he was definitely still in the game. He wasn't, they weren't just letting that go for too long. I think that was a good non-stoppage. But after that happened, it did sort of switch Cory, and he got a little bit more defensive and a little bit more cautious with his striking. And again, wasn't really planting his feet. He wasn't really settling into the striking, but he was moving well. And honestly, I thought his takedown defense looked pretty good. Obviously, Merab got several takedowns. He hit his 100 takedown mark for his UFC career, which is insane.
And I believe 20 in that fight.
So 20 takedowns. But I thought the very first takedown was interesting, because Cory Sandhagen, as soon as he got taken down, I think he knows, because he studies the game so much, that Merab doesn't look for submissions. So as soon as he got to his back, Cory just sort of stood back up and he was like, well, I know he's not going to go for my neck. I can kind of put my hands down and plant without worrying about him going for the neck, because Merab just doesn't really do that. He goes for damage. And I thought that was interesting. But of course, Merab was able to get some good control time. And look, Cory is a great fighter. I believe on any given night, he has the skills to be world champion. It's just Merab has the secret formula to destroy all these guys. And he's using pace and he's using cardio as his main primary weapon.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I think Cory did have the secret weapon in that fight. He just showed it too early.
Which was it?
He telegraphed that knee too much.
Yes.
And he was striking with Merab and trying to land that knee up the middle.
Yeah.
Don't do that for the first 3 or 4 rounds.
Yep.
Later in the fight, let Merab come in and then remind him that you have that. Yep. But when you remind him in the first round, that's something you can do.
Right.
I was like, why'd you do that now?
Yes.
Wait, keep that a secret for now. Let him forget that's your thing.
Yeah.
And then get him in the end with that. I think he could have had a better chance if he would have done that. But one more thing, he looked very impressive in that first round. Like you said, the ability to just get up from Merab being on you, it's impressive. And I think he's still got a lot in his future.
He's an absolute dog. And I'm so glad you brought up that knee. It's so important we bring up the knee, because Cory always finds those knees, and sometimes he can do them from the offensive approach, right? Where he's just standing there and springs up out of the air and jumps as high as Jiri does and lands a knee. But you see more success when you watch the wrestler change levels and shoot in. If they telegraph that shot, you can send that back knee up, and usually you'll find a home for it right on their face. Cory Sandhagen, I think he wanted to find it. He threw it a couple times and had some success with it, but a couple of the times he threw it, I think he was like kind of desperately throwing it, and he threw it while Merab wasn't really engaging with him. Merab had like just thrown a 1-2 and stood back, and then Cory jumped and did it. And I was like, that was placed perfectly. It's just Merab wasn't moving in, and so you didn't have that momentum. You didn't have the head at the height that you needed it. So I was a little bummed that he wasn't throwing it at the right time. But obviously, when Merab's in front of you, it's a lot harder to figure out which one's a feint and which one he's actually going to shoot on.
Exactly. So. And to Cory's defense, if I was in there with Merab, I'd be looking for that jump knee in the first round too, because you don't know what mentally is going on with him. Is he like, damn, this is going to get harder as it goes on? Let me at least try to get it done, even though it wasn't the right move. Maybe that's mentally what he was like. Let me get out of here quickly, because the more it goes on, the more I'm going to get drained from getting taken down and all that. But I think it's safe to say Cory Sandhagen's stock rose in defeat. For sure, it's like I said a second ago, he's very impressive in that, even though it was in defeat. Very impressive. But so what's next for Merab?
I think we have to start looking at 145 for Merab Dvalishvili, because what is there left for him at 135? Just off the top of my head, Sugar Sean, but he's already beat him twice. Umar Nurmagomedov, I would be down for that as a rematch, but we did already see it. Song Yadong hasn't made it there, and there's rumors that he's going to fight Sugar Sean, but that's not confirmed yet. So that's one option, but he's only just now getting into the conversation if he can beat Sugar Sean. If not, we're not really actually having that conversation. The only other option is, again, another rematch, Petr Yan. And I'll say he's the front runner for me. I think Petr Yan is the only guy that could maybe outperform Cory Sandhagen against Merab. I think Petr Yan might be the most skilled bantamweight on the planet, and Merab has the tools to beat him, but Petr Yan has also evolved as a fighter and watched a couple of different takes and strikers and styles go against Merab. And he sees what works and what doesn't work. And I just think that Petr Yan's such a crafty guy that could be the most compelling rematch for Merab. But at some point, we got to look at 145. And Volkanovski versus Merab is a whole lot more entertaining than if you would have had like a Zabit or a Yair Rodriguez, somebody who's much taller. You might say, that doesn't make sense for Merab to go up there. But Volk and Merab have a pretty similar build. Exactly. They're both, great cardio machines. They're both really good at staying on the feet and grappling and everything. I think that would be a fun fight for the fans to get into. I think Volk would be willing to take that. It's a big fight, but it's also not something as high risk as some of the other things Volk's done in the past. But at some point, Merab's going to be too good for bantamweight, and that day may have already come, or maybe it's 1 or 2 more title fights away. But if he's fighting again at 135 next, it's got to be Petr Yan.
And the one thing that's good about Petr Yan is Merab had, I think, 49 takedown attempts against Peter Yan.
Insanity.
If you know what his takedowns feel like, it's Peter Yan. Or Peter Yan knows what they feel like. That does help him,
Yeah, he got a full class. He got a clinic about the takedowns.
But Peter Yan was impressive on the defense on some of those. He did make Merab look a little... I'm not going to say this word. Yeah, human or sloppy in the attempts. And so, I think he's got more tape than anybody and more experience than anybody to know how to deal with them. I think Peter Yan's got a better chance than maybe some people would think. Yeah,
and that's probably just the best chance to come in as the least big underdog. Because at this point, I don't see Merab being an underdog against anybody at 135 for a long time.
Yeah. And I guess that wraps up UFC 320. But, Oliveira's got a new opponent in Gamrot because Fiziev pulled out. Your early thoughts on that and the breakdown predictions? Let's just knock it all out.
Yeah, I'm bummed that Fiziev is out of this, and I love watching Fiziev. It kind of sucks that he's had some injuries that plagued his career, and they've had some setbacks in his life. But I really think Gamrot was the other guy coming in with Fiziev about 3 or 4 years ago into the division. They were just being inserted into like the top 10 maybe, and like it looked like they were going to be the guys leading the charge for the future. And whether it's injuries or losses or combination of both, neither of them have gotten there yet. But Gamrot feels like, to me, the kind of guy that could make a statement victory against Charles Oliveira and insert himself right into this logjam of title talk with Ilia, Justin, Arman, Patty. You can throw Mateusz Gamrot right in there if he can beat Charles Oliveira. Recency bias is a real thing. So if you can go out there and beat Charles Oliveira more convincingly than Arman, or let's not get crazy, but more convincingly than Ilia, now you're really making a claim for yourself. And my best thought is that Gamrot is a complete fighter. He's very good on the feet, but he loves to take the fight to the ground and control with some high level grappling. Charles Oliveira, most submissions in UFC history, but at this point in time, Gamrot will be able to take this fight to the ground, and I don't know if we'll see Charles Oliveira, able to find submissions on him. So I think there'll be a lot of ground control time for Gamrot. And I think he's going to probably study the Arman Tsarukyan fight a lot leading into this fight, because Arman had a lot of success against Charles. And I think Mateusz has a similar enough style to Arman to use some of those same tools that worked for Arman to beat Charles Oliveira. And Charles Oliveira can beat anybody. I love Charles Oliveira, and it pains me to say this, but at this stage, and especially after getting devastatingly knocked out by Ilia Topuria, I don't know if he's going to come back the same way, or if he's going to be, a bit timid and scared to engage. And if I'm Mateusz Gamrot, I'm trying to get in there and make a statement early, because if he can get a faster finish over Charles Oliveira than Ilia Topuria, now you might have a new guy jumping into the mix and stalling Arman Tsarukyan one more time before he gets a title shot, stalling, Patty the Batty. So there's a lot on this one, and I think that Charles Oliveira, he's everybody's favorite fighter for a good reason, but Father Time is undefeated, and I think that last KO that he suffered is a really brutal one, and I don't know if he's going to be able to bounce back or ever be the same Charles Oliveira.
I got you. Well, I don't have a breakdown for it, so your final prediction on that fight.
Okay.
Winner, how they do it, all that.
I got to go with Mateusz Gamrot. I just feel like he has the momentum right now. He knows how to get this fight done. He saw it with the Arman fight. And if he goes out there and gets some control time early, he'll have Charles looking to get a little bit more wild and engage in some more chaos. And Charles is great at that. He loves getting a fight going crazy, and then he can find himself winning those exchanges. But Gamrot knows that he can take this fight down to the ground at any time, and I believe he's going to look to just control the fight, maybe look early to find a submission or a fast KO, TKO victory. But if he doesn't find that, or Charles gives him more adversity than he's expecting, then I expect him to go out and just go round after round for 5 rounds, trying to take Charles down, control him, and then do damage through ground and pound.
Okay. And the reason I passed it back so quickly is I don't have a breakdown on my pick. My pick is Charles Oliveira, and the reason it's that is because he's my favorite fighter.
There you go.
I don't have any science behind it, no breakdown, but let's just say, for instance, your prediction is correct. Do you think Ilia versus Gamrot is something that would be appealing, would be a good fight?
It doesn't blow anybody's hair back, and at this point, Ilia Topuria has too many big options to fight. And, it could be Islam Makhachev. That's still the one people want to see. If it's not Islam Makhachev, potentially it's JDM. And if it's not that one, it's Arman. People want to see him fighting Arman pretty much second most behind Islam. So Obviously, the Conor McGregor talk is out there, but that's not actually going to happen. So Gamrot, I think he would probably take about a 4th place ranking in priority for fighting Ilia. I'd have to go, Ilia should fight Islam. That's most important. Arman, 2nd most important. JDM would be 3rd. Patty would be 4th, and then I guess Gamrot would probably be 5th. So, yeah, he doesn't move a whole lot closer, but he certainly inserts his name back into the talks with the champion and at least contendership.
Nice. Well, cool. And just to throw this in there as the last little bit, it's like you just said, probably not going to happen, but Ilia and Gamrot does get booked because, as you say, Gamrot beats Charles, which won't happen, but we'll see.
We'll just play the game, right?
How do you think that would actually play out? Because he's such a dominant wrestler.
Yeah.
But Ilia is a good wrestler, but he's good with the hands too. So I think that would be interesting. What do you think that would look like?
Yeah, I think Ilia Topuria has the most complete skill set of anybody in the UFC. And even though he hasn't been challenged that much in the grappling realm since he's gotten into the UFC, he got into the UFC with really high-level submissions and grappling. So when you watch him train, which is the most footage we can get of current Ilia training on the ground because he doesn't do a whole lot in the fights. When you watch it, it's very high level. The way he flows between the transitions from grappling, from wrestling to jiu-jitsu, and he'll move in even to some judo throws. He does all sorts of great grappling martial arts tied in together as a complete mixed martial artist grappler. And I think that the way he just approaches striking, he doesn't throw kicks over the waistline. He hasn't yet in his UFC career. Crazy stat, I know. He only looks to kick the calves and he'll kick the thigh a little bit, but his main goal on offense is to close the distance, get inside of kicking range, get into boxing range, and he usually has a pretty big advantage over everybody in MMA with his hands, especially because he's a smaller frame guy, so he has a lot of success getting inside and getting small. He's always got his eyes up and his chin down, but he's throwing great, really heavy shots with his legs planted in the ground. So I wouldn't put money on Mateusz Gamrot to beat Ilia Topuria, but I think it would be interesting if he comes in as one of the contenders, and he's just slightly different than all the other contenders where it's interesting enough to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, cool. Is that everything?
Yeah, that's everything.
Awesome.
Guys, thank y'all so much. Yes, Steven will be back. Like I said, he's got no voice right now, but we appreciate you guys watching as always. Give it up for Chris one time. He's killing it in this residency. And yeah, we'll see you guys soon. Appreciate it.
Take care.